Well, hey, looky there. YouTube folks everywhere. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on tonight's edition of the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. We are looking forward to a conversation about prepping. Not so much what you have or where you keep it.
Control, Atlanta 503, WQYU 896.
Okay, so I'm not sure what Paul wants, but let me go here and we'll see. We haven't started the net quite yet. Atlanta 503. Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, I finally got into the clear. Just wanted to check in and out. Wasn't able to make contact earlier. Was in an area with a lot of high tension lines.
Excellent. I'm glad you were able to make it. Your signal is very readable now. Atlanta 503. Paul and Jefferson. I've got you in a log as in and out. We'll be starting the net here in about 2 minutes. WQIR 514, Atlanta 946 will be clear.
Atlanta 503, WQYU 896 will be clear.
Okay. Well, you know, he must not have heard the acknowledgement, and that's okay.
This is Atlanta 417, WRER 451, checking in and out, William in Auburn, Georgia.
All right. Okay, so I guess I don't get to take a break, and we're going to go ahead and take check-ins. 417, William in Auburn. So what I like to do is take a little 5-minute break there and make sure I got all my stuff working before we jump into the net. Because so many times I'm spending 2 or 3 minutes troubleshooting the live stream and troubleshooting the connection, or having to kill the streaming app and start it again, and little things like that. And so I like to have this time where I'm not taking check-ins and to do that. But if folks are going to call in, I'm going to try to give them a log. And so we've got William in here with us, and glad of it. So as I was saying, we're going to talk about prepping. Not so much whether you have, a stockpile of food and ammunition and weapons and that sort of thing, but tips and tricks and things that we can learn maybe from each other as to where we can go for resources, in the woods or in a nearby field, or if you have a way. For instance, I know that Atlanta 721 and 722 are avid at canning, and so they have that resource available to them where they can preserve food. So if they have hunted and taken an animal, they can preserve part of it to be able to consume later. So lots of potential good ideas and tips and tricks that I hope to learn from tonight's net. I think this is going to be exciting stuff. It is time to go. So I've got a script in front of me. I've got the push to talk button right here, and I've got a glare in my forehead. So sorry about that. Let me see. Got a little push button issue going on here, but that seems to have resolved it. Good evening, and welcome to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Tonight I'll be working off the flagship 675 repeater, and we are linked in with the following machines: Lookout Mountain, Somerville, McDonough, Noonan, Jersey, Crawford, Zebulon, Moreland, Columbus, and of course the Zello VoIP link. Tonight our RF coverage is approximately 31,000 square miles, but our Zello coverage is worldwide, and that's pretty incredible. This net takes place every Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. I'd like to thank everyone, all of you, who have made the North Georgia GMRS the most expansive and the most active net in the country. Your net control tonight is Atlanta 946, WQIR 514. My name is Justin, and I'm located at Studio B right here in Woodstock, Georgia. On the net, you can talk about your day's activities, radio equipment, or anything that you think we'd like to hear about. This is a family-based network, and we encourage you to get your family and the North Georgia GMRS youth and spouses involved. On the floor, it is permissible to address other members of the net by their name or their tactical unit number. The FCC call sign is only required when you sign in and sign out of the net. At this time, I will acknowledge all of our early check-ins. Let me take a break. All right, listen fast. We're going to try to go through this quick. We have Atlanta 285, CV Smith in Murrayville, in and out. Atlanta 286, Lynn in Murrayville, also in and out. We have Atlanta 287, Trey in Murrayville, in and out. We have Atlanta 253, Donald in Blairsville, checked in with us tonight. We have Atlanta 722, Lisa in Rockmart, in tonight. Atlanta 912, Alfonso is in with us this evening. Atlanta 721, David in Rockmart is in tonight. I'm sorry, Alfonso is in and out. I just missed that. I was in a hurry, and I didn't get all the boxes checked, Alfonso, but we got you taken care of now. Appreciate you listening in. Atlanta 122, Marine. Marine, I didn't catch where your check-in was from, what community you're from, but we've got you in here as in and out, and that's good enough for now. Atlanta 403, Bobby in White County is in and out. He's going to monitor the live stream tonight. Hope that it plays well. So far, it looks like it's behaving, but I do not have a monitor in here to see how it is once it leaves here. So I'm just going to hope for the best. We have Atlanta 750, Jeff in Waleska is in and out. We have Atlanta 180, Mike in Cherry Log is in with us tonight. Also, we have Atlanta 699, Mike in Sugar Hill. I think he said in and out, but I didn't mark him that way. I might have just been in a hurry. Mike, I'm going to call on you, and if you're not there, that's okay. We have Atlanta 138, Robert in Auburn. He's at band practice, so he's in and out. Thank you, Robert, for your check-in. Atlanta 671, John in Ball Ground. John, I didn't mark you at all, whether you're in and out or what. So we're going to call on you, and we'll figure it out later. Atlanta 657, Sam in Canton is in and out. Atlanta 810, John in Dawsonville, in with us this evening. Atlanta 780, Houston in Powder Springs is in with us this evening. Atlanta 402, Todd incoming is in tonight. Atlanta 749, Craig in Douglasville is in tonight. Atlanta 920, Kyle incoming. I've got you in log tonight, Kyle, as well as 921, Ashley. Looking forward to talking with both of you, as well as Chattanooga 100, Bob, and Chattanooga 101, Tammy, both in Ringgold. Looking forward to talking with both of you. We've got Atlanta 532, Tom in Flowery Branch, in and out tonight. I have Atlanta 312, Stacy in Emerson, in and out tonight. McDonough 22, Tim in Stockbridge, if he makes it back from the pharmacy in time. Atlanta 948, Gary in Woodstock is in and out tonight. Atlanta 252, Shad is in with us this evening. Looking forward to talking with you, Shad. We have Atlanta 167, Neil in Sugar Hill is in and out. We have Atlanta 503, Paul in Jefferson, in and out. And we have Atlanta 417, William in Auburn is in with us this evening. And that's what I have for early check-ins. Let me break. Okay. Invalid. Hopefully that corrects that. All right, that looks better. Okay, so, all right, with that, let's go ahead and take additional check-ins. At this time, we'll take check-ins from any repeater anywhere. We're looking for check-ins particularly from North Georgia GMRS youth members, in addition to any guests and visitors. This would be anyone with a GMRS valid license but is not a member that would like to check into the net tonight. You're welcome to do so using your call sign. And also any regular members who would like to check in from any repeater anywhere. Net control, standing by. Take it easy on me. Slow down a little bit. I'm barely keeping up. Thanks, folks.
Bruce Stockbridge, in and out.
WRKX 816, Atlanta 923, Sophie incoming, in and out. Dad.
This is Atlanta 947 WQIR 514 Julie in Woodstock. Please check me in and out.
RNN 790 John in Griffin, in and out.
Okay, let me go ahead and acknowledge what we have there. Bruce in Stockbridge, the first part of your transmission got clipped off, and that's a common thing that we have with a linked repeater network. So I missed your tactical unit number, Bruce. If you don't mind coming back with your TAC number, please.
Donna 39, Bruce in Stockbridge, WRNX 338.
Excellent. McDonough 39. Okay, I've got you in there now. Actually, I've got you in there incorrectly now, but I will fix that as we speak. And there we go. McDonough 39, Bruce in Stockbridge. I've got you in the log tonight. Atlanta 93, Sophie. I know that you told me where you're at, Sophie, but I missed it. So if you don't mind coming back and helping me make corrections in my log, I would appreciate that.
923, Sophie incoming, in and out.
923. So I had two errors in that entry. Thank you, Sophie, for that correction. Atlanta 923, Sophie incoming. Appreciate that. It's great to hear from you. Also, we have Atlanta 947, Julie in Woodstock. And we have, I believe it was WRNN 790, John in Griffin. John is in and out with us this evening. Appreciate you monitoring, and hope that you enjoyed tonight's program. Do we have any additional check-ins? Any youth members, any visitors or guests, any regular members, any repeater anywhere? Net control standing by.
This is
W, R, N, Q, 863. Widow Joss. Dawsonville. Chicken in, chicken out.
This is looks clear this time. Unit 29 WRCU 796. Good evening, Justin, and everybody on the net.
Okay, check in after John and Griffin. I may have incorrectly copied your call sign, so if you would please come back with your call sign and your first name. I've got that you're in Dawsonville.
Justin, it was my son, so it's WRNQ 863. His name is also John, and he is in Dawsonville. He is 5.
Excellent. Okay, I've got that. And I've also got Noonan 29, Marty in Tyrone. All right. Well, this is a great start for tonight's net. And anyone else that would like to check in will have the opportunity to do so once we roll through this here. So this is going to be an interesting topic. Tonight we're going to talk about fishing and where your favorite fishing hole is. I'm just kidding. Tonight's topic is prepping, and I'm a little bit nervous about this because, one of the things that I would love to discuss are your ideas for things that we can do in terms of survival in terms of getting by for a period of time without things like electricity or natural gas or gasoline, or what if things happen in such a way? I mean, we've experienced a number of outages, and the geopolitical outlook for the near future implies that we're not done with outages and shortages, and it looks as though there's a pretty good likelihood that we're going to be experiencing a continuation of some of these events. My recent trips to some of the stores have revealed that, there's an abundance of many, many things, but there's also a shortage of some things. And it's not as bad as it was during the time where you couldn't find toilet paper or cleaning supplies. But it is indicative of what we have built in terms of a distribution network, and so bottlenecks here affect things there, and when things get affected there, it affects things down the road, and there's a cascade effect of these shortages that happen. And all these, though the current situation is a little more than inconvenient, it does point to something that we should be paying attention to, and that is it broke this easily and it broke this badly. If we had a serious thing happen and it was sustained for a period of time, for instance, if the refineries were shut down because of hurricanes for an extended period of time, or if our pipelines were shut down because of a software problem for an extended period of time, things can happen to affect our energy, and that can have a big impact on distribution, and that can have an impact on electric energy and things like that. So these things can all snowball into something much bigger than we've experienced so far. And I believe that, although I think in general we're going to be okay, that there's no reason to yell that the sky is falling, at the same time it's important that we understand how easily our system can be broken and how difficult it is to fix it once it is. And we have been trying to fix this for a year now, and it's still not fixed. We have many ships that are waiting to unload their containers off the coasts because we have a shortage of a number of things, resources such as manpower, and resources such as hours and availability and scheduling and things. There's a massive amount of material that could be stocking our store shelves right now that's just not being unloaded. So what does it take to make that happen? And why hasn't that happened? Why have we allowed this to become such an ongoing problem that we didn't correct more dynamically as it occurred? These are some of the things I wanted to talk about tonight. Is how do you address, if you can't get food for 4 or 5 weeks, if you can't get fresh water, if you can't get fuel, what are some of the things that we can do to get by for that kind of a time frame, and how do we protect our resources in that process? So don't really want to talk about weapons and firearms and stockpiles and how much food you have stored away. That's information that you should be holding close to the vest and not revealing to others that you have those resources. What I want to talk about is your ideas as to how we get by. So with that in mind, let's go first to let's see here. We have, I believe it was Atlanta 253, Donald in Blairsville. I've got it marked as in and out, but Donald, are you in, Donald, and do you have any plans for surviving an extended period with the grid being out of commission? Atlanta 253?
Evening, Justin, and good evening to the rest of the net. If we have a power outage, we have a gas fireplace here, and we have some battery backup, so that's what I would do, and just go ahead and check me out of the net. This is 253 WQND 274 clear.
All right, Donald. Well, I hear that. Gasoline generators and some battery backup and some means of extending your electric power for at least a short time, maybe several days, and oftentimes that's enough. But we'll have to hope that that's going to be all that we ever experience, and probably it is. So, with that in mind, let's say hello to Atlanta 947 right over my shoulder there, and we'll move right along to. I'll show you out of the log there, Donald. So thank you for that reminder. Let's move on next to Atlanta 722. Lisa in Rockmart. Lisa, tell me about your survival plans if the grid goes down.
Well, I like to refer to the movie Tremors. There's a character in there by the name of Bert. He says, when you need it and don't have it, you sing a different tune. So what my thing is I look at it like the 10 commandments of prepping. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, a means of self-defense, several ways to cook your food, ways to make fire, learn gardening, canning, and dehydrating.
Well, that sounds like a very comprehensive list of instructions there, and I mean, just from glossing over the surface, it seems like it covers just about all the bases. You've got your short-term emergency provision as well as a long-term plan, which is basically the gardening aspect of things, so that if we get into trouble, there is a way to sustain and maintain what you have. So that's good stuff. Where did you get the 10 Commandments of prepping? Where does that come from? Is that something that is documented somewhere?
Actually, no, it just came off the top of my head because I know that there's a lot more to that, such as raising your own animals, and as far as water, there's ways to, collecting rainwater or storing bottled water. There's different ways to do it. But it was just kind of the basics.
Oh, that's good stuff. I think you should write that down and lay claim to it. I'd love to see a post on our Facebook page to that effect. That's sounds like great words in terms of being prepared in an emergency, because you covered some things that I'd never considered, and one of those is medicine. My doctor's got me on a handful of things here. I got several bottles of stuff that I take, and I've got I probably have 6 months worth of meds here. But what am I going to do when that runs out? I'm going to have to figure out what a long-term plan is, because if these things become unavailable or inconvenient to get, I guess I'm going to have to lose weight and take better care of myself, because I won't have the medicine to do it for me. But those are some excellent points that you've raised, and the canning and preserving food is also something I touched on just prior to the show, that we need to probably be a little bit better at. Here our approach is to buy canned goods that will have a long shelf life, and be intentional about rotating those items through our shelves, so that we don't have stuff that's sitting for ridiculous periods of time. Trying to make sure that we have a supply of things, but yet not so much stuff that it's being wasted because it's going out of date. But great stuff, Lisa. Thank you so much for your contribution tonight, and it's great to hear you on the air. I really appreciate your thoughts. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, that's good stuff. I appreciate that. Next, I'm going to go on to Atlanta 912, Alfonso in Marietta, in and out tonight. Thank you, Alfonso, for that. And how about that other guy over there, 721? David, you have any comments you'd like to add to grid down scenarios?
Good evening, Justin, and good evening to everyone that. Now I'm sitting here next to Lisa, like, well, you just kind of stole all my thunder. I don't know what to say now. She's going to send that to me, and I'm going to post it on the Facebook page. But one of the main things, people need to remember is, like back there in the 1800s, it's not about being a prepper. It is, back then, if you didn't have firewood, you froze to death. If you didn't store food, you starved. It's not so much as being a prepper, it's just getting back to our roots and trying to self-sustain yourself. You've got to be able to come up with, the means to do that. And like you was talking about medication, if you take medications, consult your doctor for a 90-day supply. Let me break. Another thing to look at is natural remedies. There's a lot of those out there that they don't want you to use because it doesn't give them tax dollars. Anyway, buy something and learn how to use it. It's like the radios. Don't buy a radio, leave it in the corner, and go, yeah, I have a radio. Figure out how to program it. What does this button do? What does that do? You've got to be proficient in everything you have. If just because you bought a really cool survival knife, go out there and cut a tree down with it, and then figure out, no, this actually really doesn't work well at all. This handle hurts. Main thing is just practice with what you have, and be good with everything.
Well, and that raises a valid point, David. And learning how to use the stuff that you have is very important. Many of us radio users are what the hams like to call appliance operators, in that we know how to use the push to talk, and we know just enough to get on the air. And I celebrate that, for a couple of reasons. Number one is, just by doing that, if all you know how to do is press the button and come on the air, you have removed yourself from the massive populace, and you have entered a circle of radio elitists. Not because you know how radios work and you know how to take them apart and put them back together and so on and so forth, but you have entered that group because there are not that many of us in the grand scheme of things. So many people would never consider grabbing a radio and hitting that push to talk. So I celebrate those that have done that, and really enjoy hearing people on the air, regardless of their knowledge or their skill levels. And so that's first and foremost, at least for me. I think in GMRS radio is where that particular aptitude is perfect, because we don't necessarily need to take a knowledge test to have a license. We just need to have some very simple understanding of operating principles, and even at that, I don't really care if you get your TAC number wrong or if you get your call sign wrong, or I just want you to come on the air and have a conversation and enjoy it. So I think as a radio group, we tend to be very forgiving in that light, and very encouraging to new users and uneasy and nervous people that it's not, it's okay. The water's fine. Come on in. But the other point that Lisa made was, and you touched on it too, was having your own animals, your own livestock, chickens. We really enjoyed having the chickens here until the coyotes ruined that for us. And it's something we may come back to. I just don't want to feed any more chickens to the coyotes. But we really enjoyed having the birds on the property, watching the birds do their chicken thing, and watching the social order of the animals, and it's just neat having them here. We're not very good at being able to take care of the animals. Like, for instance, we're gonna be doing a lot of traveling in the next 2 years, so we need to be prepared for that and not leave something that becomes a burden for somebody else to take care of. So we're probably not going to have any animals on the property in the near future, but that is something that, if you're able to, you absolutely should do. And the other thing, David, that you talked about was knowing how to use things, and that's one thing that this net does every week, is it provides an opportunity for us to practice using our radios, and to not only that, but if you've got a radio and you used it twice and you know that it works, and you shut it off and you throw it in the bag and you would say, okay, I'm prepared. Are you? Are you prepared? Do you know what kind of performance to expect out of that radio? Do you know what areas it's gonna work best in and where it's maybe not gonna work at all? Do you know how to get to various repeaters? Are you only using? Have you only ever programmed your radio to hit one repeater? I can hit the McDonald repeater. I'm good to go. Well, that's fine if that's where you are. But if you find yourself somewhere else, you may need to have other repeaters programmed into your radios. I think most of us do, but yes, practice, knowledge, know how to use it. Excellent point, David. Let me move on next to, let's see, our next active check-in is Atlanta 180, Mike in Cherry Log. You may notice that I'm skipping over several of our in and outs. I will come back and read all of those names before we sign off tonight. Mike, do you have any grid down scenarios you'd like to inform us about, or ideas or tips to tell us about?
Well, I have lots of those things. Thought a lot about your questioning. And by the way, don't we have a lot of beautiful signals tonight?
Yeah, I tell you what, Mike, if your signal were any stronger, I think I'd be asking you to do net control.
Well, they're all strong tonight, Justin. In its simplest term, I think of the grid down, whatever you call it, as survival. And for me, and you know I live alone, that consists of 4 gallons of water, 1 jar of peanut butter, and a roof over my head. Now, I'm a lot better prepared than that. However, for a month or two, we just don't need to starve to death. I didn't, in my survival needs, I didn't include such things as radios, although I do have several options for powering my radios. I did not include toilet paper. I'm a country boy. In its simplest form, survival requires 4 gallons of water per person per week, 1 jar of peanut butter, and a roof over your head or shelter. You can get as complicated as you want after that, but just stay alive. And anyway, that's I think my only contribution. I would like to thank you for not moving me up to the top of the list. I'm proud to announce that I don't need that handicap placard anymore. Over.
Yeah, that was a conscious decision, Mike. I considered your signal quality, and I thought, yeah, we don't really need to do that. So it was good that we did it the few weeks that we did. Otherwise, we might not have got you at all. But I'm very pleased that that is no longer necessary, and I think that that'll be even better once we get the mighty Blue Ridge machine linked in, and I'm excited for the near future for some of these improvements to come. So good stuff, Mike. Yes, I mean that is the bottom line here. Is as much as we might like to be comfortable in a grid down situation, the most important thing is that we can stay alive, so that we can resume our comfort when conditions return. So. And there too, we don't know if we're dealing with something that's going to last for 2 days or 2 weeks. And the way the weather can be around here sometimes with the ice storms and whatnot, you know, you could be snowed in or iced in, with very little notice. So we're coming upon a season where it's even more important to make sure that you have, plenty of things in your access, so that if we did get into an ice storm and your power was down for a few days, you would have the means to be able to sustain yourself at home. And that's something that Julie and I have learned through the years, through some of these storms, is that even though we're walking distance away from several stores, we need to be able to get by for a couple of weeks here if necessary, so that if the bad weather does come, we don't have to be out in it. And we can leave that up to everybody else, and we can separate ourselves from the potential tragedy of roadway accidents and things like that, during icy conditions, just simply by not being out. And hopefully my insurance agent is listening and marking us down for an additional discount for that, but I doubt it. But yeah, these are things. These are important things to consider, and the most important one is to survive. So good points, Mike. Thank you for that. Next, I have Atlanta 671 John in Ball Ground. John, do you have any comments for tonight's discussion?
Hey, Justin, thanks. I'm doing more listening and less talking tonight. I'm willing to learn and see what's going on and what everyone else is doing to prepare.
Well, that's a wise position to hold in many situations. And yeah, tonight I think we've already, just in this short time of opening this up, we've already had some really, really good information and some good points. Now, whether we put any of that into practice is another matter. But I'd sure like to see those Lisa's 10 Commandments on paper, just as a reminder of some of the things that we just don't think about, in terms of prepping. Prepping for me is beans and bullets. And Lisa reminds us that there really is a lot more to it than that. So I really appreciate her remarks. Well, good stuff, John. Thank you for your comments. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the other John, Atlanta 810 in Dawsonville. John, do you have any comments for the net and for this discussion?
Good evening, Justin. Good evening, Lynette. Yeah, I just got a couple of comments. So first and foremost, I heard somebody had mentioned earlier that they have a generator, get them a couple of days. When I bought my generator last year, I bought a new one last year rather, I went with an option that had not only the gasoline hookup or tank, but also had the ability to run off of propane and natural gas. Gives you 3 different fuel options in case one is unavailable. The propane option, it hooks up to a regular grill propane tank. I have a smoker here, Blackstone, and a gas grill. So I have ways to cook, but I also have 3 propane tanks for each of the appliances there. So I typically have propane to operate said generator if I ever needed it. The other point I would make, my wife, 811, insisted many years ago that we started to keep a stockpile of things around the house, non-perishable items, and I realized pretty quickly that Amazon has a subscribe and save feature that you can buy things in bulk and have it delivered at an occurrence in which you choose. So it can be repetitive every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, once a month, every couple of months, so on and so forth. And it doesn't hit the grocery store run pocketbook as frequently that way. It kind of shows up dispersed throughout the month or every few months to help keep that pile stocked up, if you will. So those are the couple of items that I have to throw out there. I'm listening to others for other suggestions.
Well, good. That's good stuff too. And with the non-perishables, even though they're non-perishable, you still need to be careful that you're rotating them, and using the oldest first, so that none of it gets too old. I like the idea, and you're not the only one that I've heard of that uses the Amazon subscription service. I've tried it, and I just don't. I don't care for the surprise deliveries. But that is a good way, and you're right. You can move that budget item out of your regular grocery budget into something that's more of a long-term budget item, and the money part of it can be a little bit easier to manage. For me, I just soon make the run to Costco and be more intentional about some of those bulk purchases, and and shop around, because we found that sometimes the club places are really not the best place to buy things. And a lot of times when you are shopping the sales and whatnot, you can do better at Kroger and Publix and even I've come to the place where it's difficult for me to utter the words, but even Walmart sometimes is a better place to buy things just for price. One of the things that we are trying to be more intentional about is what we purchase and where. And so we have endeavored to, like for instance, we've stopped buying supermarket meats. I did pick up a pack of hamburger the other day, and I have bought lunch meat and things like that, and probably still will. But when it comes to our regular diet of meats that we're going to consume, we're buying bulk from these restaurant supplies and from these direct from the farm places. A, because the pricing is good. B, because the product is very fresh and very high quality, restaurant quality, and it's worlds apart from what we buy at the supermarket. It's worlds apart. So that's another consideration, is to be a little bit more intentional about how you're spending your money, and maybe waive some of the convenience for a little bit better food security, a little bit better financial security. Keep the money in the neighborhood whenever you can. Keep the money in local business whenever you can, even if it means you have to spend a little bit more. That's always hard to do, but sometimes, I'm going to say that it's always worth it, because we have put too much of our economy into the hands of other nations, and sometimes that's coming back to do us all harm. So that's what I'm trying to say, is just be a little bit more intentional about the quality of things that you're buying and where you're buying them from. All right, John. Well, thanks for those comments, and yeah, that's all good stuff. Atlanta 780, Houston in Powder Springs. Do you have a stockpile of goods stored away in that camper?
Hi, no, sir. Good evening, and good evening to the rest of the net. We had a stockpile there at the house for a little while, but most of it's gone now. We have some shelves in a room that had, of course, rice and beans and water and stuff like that you just keep stocked up in case something happened. You got frozen or whatever. The worst come to worst, you know how that goes. I guess, yeah, like the wife said, the fire took care of that. They don't save anything. I don't care whether it's sealed or not. They will discard it and pay you for it if it's got smoke on it.
Well, they're going to have a tough time getting the brisket out of my hands. That's all I've got to say. But yeah, that's a shame that it's such a waste. We were talking, 947 and I were talking this evening about medicine, and having a quantity of medicine to dispose of. Can you donate that to a shelter or to a place that does medical stuff for the needy? And no, I guess not really. You can't, because they can't accept it, because maybe it would be tampered with or something, or maybe it's mislabeled, or so prescription medicines and things like that, when you're no longer able to use them, or they have to be disposed of. So that's a topic that has come up here. Suddenly we have medicine for someone that is no longer going to be needing it. So what do we do with that? And some of the stuff is controlled substance kind of stuff. So I mean, I know that there can be certain hazards when you're handling prescriptions that have other people's names on them. So, you know, I want to know what is the right process. Is there a bag we can seal it up in and then take it someplace? So these are things that I'm learning or about to learn in terms of what to do with prescription medicines that need to be dealt with. So yeah, throwing everything away, and that's something too that it's a shame because some of that stuff is crazy expensive, but I don't know how you can reallocate it safely and effectively and legally to someone. But Houston, I hope that we have a mild winter and that the resources that you have are adequate to see you through it. How does that thing hold up in the cold weather?
Oh, we're good. We're good in the cold weather. We've been in well, down to the 20s. Believe it or not, in Arizona.
No.
But yeah, we've had it up north and everything, and it's done good in the cold weather. It's not as good as my other camper. It was a cold weather camper, but this one does have good heat, and a little electric heater do a lot more than you think it would. But yeah, it's a shame that some of the stuff that they have to throw away. And as far as that medicines, a lot of the drugstores have a discard barrel. You can talk to your pharmacist, and if you've got used needles or drugs that you don't take anymore that you need to get rid of, you know, you don't need to flush them or anything. It can contaminate the water system. But they will take those and they'll dump them and get rid of them for you.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hearing. So we'll find out the specifics and the particulars as to how best to do that, and because I'm gonna have some of that to take care of here pretty soon. So that's good info, and yeah, I'm glad to hear. Now, is that camper? Do you have like natural gas, or are you just running off of propane bottles?
No, I have 2 large propane bottles up front. They last a pretty good while with the heat.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm impressed all the time with how long my propane lasts on my grills and my griddle and stuff. You know, I'm all the time anticipating that I'm going to run out of gas, and so whenever I find an opportunity to grab another propane bottle, I do. And so I've got a collection of propane bottles here now, probably way more than I need, but it's a comfort to know that I've got plenty of propane if we do have a situation where I need it. So that's probably our grid down situation. Is we'll do all of our cooking out there at the Tiki Bar. We did it. I did a lot of it last year out there, all through the season without any problems at all, and and it's very likely we'll do that again this year. But glad to know that you'll be warm and comfortable through the winter, and that other offer I made to you back when things got interesting still stands. Just want you to know that. But thank you for that, Houston. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move on. Next on our list is Atlanta 749, Craig in Douglasville. Craig, are you still in with us? Do you have any comments for tonight's discussion about what to do in a grid down scenario?
Hey, Justin, you got a good signal on my radio?
Oh, yeah, you're booming in here, loud and clear. Almost no white noise, excellent signal.
So I'm going to keep this short and sweet, maybe, but I figure there's 2 types of situations for preppers. There's the 2 to 3 week kind, you know, everything runs dry for a couple weeks, and you've got your storage, your prep stuff, all your supplies, your propane, everything stored up. But then I strongly believe, after about a month, if everything still is hard to get, people are going to get crazy, and it all boils down to survival after that. Like, people are going to start robbing each other. I hate to bring it up, but things will get violent after about a month.
Yeah, and depending on the nature of what it is that's short, what you can no longer buy, it might not even take a month. We've just not in this country. We've not experienced that sort of a hardship. We look back at the toilet paper crises of 2020, and I mean, really, I mean that's nothing. So if things did get serious, I don't think it would take a month, and I think that there would be uh, a lot of that kind of chaos going on. So one of the important things to do early on is be very discreet and stay out of that. Stay low key. Don't make it look like you're doing really well. If you have a generator, maybe you don't even use it. Maybe you don't even, um, you know, maybe you're careful about how you prepare any food so that you don't generate the barbecue smell across the neighborhood. Maybe you make it look like you're suffering and you're in hardship, just so that you're not drawing unwelcome attention to yourself. So, good points, Craig. I appreciate your comments tonight. Atlanta 920, Kyle, do you have any comments for a grid down situation? All right. Kyle and Ashley may have been in and out tonight. Atlanta 921, Ashley, do you have any comments? All right, I'm going to go ahead and show Kyle and Ashley in and out in our log. Calling on purpose here. Hopefully that fixes that. Bobby, hopefully we're back in here. Yeah, you dropped out in the middle of that, so I don't know if maybe your finger slipped off the push to talk or if you moved or something, but overall your signal is usable. So go ahead, Bob. Well, that's not the same signal that we had. Bob, I think you moved because that's not the same signal we had. We can't make that out. All right, Bob. When you first came on the air, your signal was pretty hot, although you dropped out in the middle of it. And when you came back, I don't know if you moved or what happened, but it was tough to make a lot of that out. But I'm going to go over some of the things that I did here. I heard you talking about having a dual fuel generator and that you felt that that was pretty important to have that option. And I would agree. Gasoline could be tough to come by. If the grid's down and there's no electricity, the fuel pumps are not going to work at the gas station. So it doesn't matter how much gas they have, they won't be able to sell it. they won't be able to pump it, and that gas is going to stay in the ground at least for the short term. So somebody's going to figure out how to sneak in there at night and pump out what they need, but for the short term, gas is going to be really hard to come by if we do have a grid down situation. So dual fuel gives you more options in terms of if you can't get gas, maybe you can get propane. And some of these places that sell propane may be in a better position to run a pump off of a generator if the need arises. So you may have some options there. And I know that propane trucks are able to deliver propane without electricity. So that may also be an option. So dual fuel is definitely a good idea. The other thing I heard you mention was that some things that you need to know how to do around the house, and that would be to be able to shut off your water or to shut off your gas. And if we're going to be running in a situation where we're not heating the house because we can't, we need to shut our water off. But not only that, we also need to drain the water system. You need to drain your water heater, and you need to get as much water out of your pipes as you can, because if the house is going to get cold and freeze, if you leave water in those pipes, you're going to be replumbing the house when the warm comes back on, or when the grid comes available again. And if you're shutting the water off, you may as well shut off your natural gas connection too. So it's important to know how to do that. You don't have to call the gas company to shut your gas off. You can do it yourself. There's a valve out there on the meter. Usually you can turn it pretty easily with a crescent wrench or with a pair of channel locks. So you need to know how to do that. And I think probably the most important thing that Bob mentioned was, in a grid down situation, the last thing that you need is a trip to the hospital. So it's very important that you stay uninjured, that you stay safe, that you stay away from the need to have medical attention. So I think that was the great point, Bob. Excellent that you brought that up, and absolutely paramount that we be extra careful in a situation something like that. So with that in mind, thank you for your comments, Bob. Does Tammy have anything she wants to add?
I'm sorry, Justin, you didn't catch that she was in and out. But she did want to be counted.
All right. Well, that's okay. Appreciate having her in the log nonetheless. So good stuff. I appreciate your comments tonight, Bob. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on next to McDonough 22. Tim in Stockbridge. Tim, do you have any comments for grid down scenarios?
Good evening, Justin. And I don't think I have anything unique or different of my own to add, but listening to everybody else tonight, I think the most intriguing thing I've heard so far is the Ten Commandments of prepping, so to speak. And that got me to thinking that we each, every one of us, have our own different circumstances regards, how many family members we have, where we live, what kind of resources we have financial-wise, and things like that. So I think going by that Ten Commandments thing, I think it would benefit everyone to just take some time to sit down and think through what might I need the most, if things really get bad here, or if, the grid goes down or whatever, what's the most likely scenario, and how can I plan for it, and kind of make out a list, whether it's Ten Commandments or what, but something I think we each need to give some thought to. I'd like to have a generator, but something I've always kind of kept putting off because it's not something I need right away, and so you say, well, I need that money somewhere else, but maybe I'll think more about getting a generator, a propane generator. I think would be more suitable for my means. If I could get, say, a small portable, because my place isn't very big, so I don't need a whole lot of power. but a propane generator and a good size propane bottle or several of those barbecue pit type 20-gallon things or 15-gallon, whatever they are. But that's about it from Stockbridge from McDonough 22 is all I can think of tonight. I just got to thinking about that, and I think probably the best thing I can do is need to sit down and just take stock of everything and start making lists there, Roger.
Well, and that's a good point, Tim. And you know, and someone once told me it's never too late to start unless it's too late. So you know, you don't have to panic. You don't have to get all freaked out about what you don't have, but you should be intentional about the whole concept. And by that, what I mean is that once you recognize that you have that need, you should make steps to fill it, and then have what it takes. And like David said, it's not good enough to have it. You need to know how to use it. You need to know how, what can you power with it. You might, before we have an emergency, you might break it out and get it running and connect different things to it that you think that you might need if we were in a situation, to be sure that it is adequate, that it will run it. If you're thinking that all you need is something that'll run your refrigerator and your freezer and maybe run a fan or something, that's all that I really need. That's everything else is just a luxury. But those are the things that'll protect my food, so that's all I care about. Well, make sure that it'll work. A buddy of mine had a generator that it was old and it may have been bad to begin with, but anyway, he destroyed a refrigerator one time running the refrigerator off of the generator. And we don't know if it was because the refrigerator was bad or if the generator was bad, but ended up basically taking both devices out of service. So these are things that we need to just be careful of and make sure if you get one of those inverter generators that it's capable of starting a compressor on a refrigerator. I don't know. It should be, but it might not. And if you want a generator that's going to run your whole house and keep your lights on at night and run the air conditioning all summer long, you're probably not looking at a gasoline generator because you'll be going through gas at a pretty good clip if you're trying to power convenience things like that. So but yeah, I think that that's a good idea. Let's get intentional about our plans for being prepared for an emergency. That way when something does happen, instead of reacting to it in panic, we can react to it in preparation, and that we know that we have the resources at hand to bridge the gap and that we're going to be okay. So good stuff, Tim. Appreciate your comments tonight. Atlanta 252, Shad. Are you in Atlanta, or did I mishear that? And you're in Emerson. Atlanta 252, Shad, are you with us tonight? All right. I'm going to go ahead and show Shad as in and out. Maybe I missed that when he checked in because, for some reason I've got Atlanta down here, and I just have a hard time believing that he's in Atlanta tonight. I believe he's in Emerson. So, but that's what's in the log. We'll leave it that way until somebody corrects me. Next on my list, I have McDonough 39, Bruce in Stockbridge. Bruce, do you have any comments for the net tonight?
McDonough 39, I think maybe a lot of what everybody said. I think I would just add that we all have to be familiar with our limitations and adapt for that. If you're not a hunter, maybe learn to hunt, or if you're not somebody who's used to camping outdoors, then it could be fun to try those things. Also, learning just basics, first aid, and those type things. I think y'all mentioned having medications and those type things. That's about all I have to add.
Well, that's a good point, Bruce, and probably it's not enough to learn first aid, but to have some first aid supplies. We have a first aid kit around here that's good for minor mosquito bites and a sliced finger, but if it were a real injury, if you got poked in the abdomen by something, this first aid kit is probably not going to be enough, and my first aid training isn't going to be enough to deal with an injury of that nature. So it probably could be good to spend some time and learn how to treat serious injuries, because like we talked earlier, it's very important not to need that kind of a thing. But then what if you do? Because by nature an accident is not something that we did intentionally, and if we didn't do it intentionally, it probably snuck up on us and surprised us. So if we do get injured, we should seek out and learn how to use resources to restore our health if something of that nature were to happen. So that's a very good point, Bruce. All right. Well, thank you for your comments tonight. And with that, I'm going to move right on. Next on my list is Atlanta 923. Sophie incoming. Sophie, do you have any comments for a grid down situation tonight, or were you in and out? Now that I replay Sophie's check-in in my head, I believe she did say that she was in and out. Maybe I'm mistaken about that, but I think that is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and mark her in a log that way. Sophie, if you do have some comments, go ahead and jump in here and feel free to make them. That brings me next to Atlanta. No, that's going to be WRNQ 863 John in Dawsonville. I believe he's also going to be in and out. Is John going to come on and talk to us some more?
Negative, Justin. He was in and out. He was itching to talk on the radio, but he is asleep in bed at the moment.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to the next opportunity to hear a check-in from John. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Noonan29, Marty in Tyrone, currently our tail gunner. Marty, do you have any comments for a grid down situation?
Well, good evening, Justin and the net. Boy, I heard a lot of great ideas. And I think the best thing you can do is, ultimately what you need is food, clothing, water, and shelter. If you've got that, you're probably in pretty good shape. If the rig goes down, make sure you have a decent stockpile of water and food, of course, storable food. I did learn this past summer that if I have to rely on my garden, I'm going to be eating jalapenos. That's the only thing that seemed to work good, and I'm going to be a really thin guy by the end of a season. So next year, I think we're back to the drawing board, as they say, on learning how to. Let's see here. I hope I didn't time out. But that's really it. I think we're hearing a lot of great ideas, and learn from those, and put your own list together that you think suits your needs, and I think we go from there. Back to net from Noonan 29 WRCU 796.
Well, that was great stuff, Marty. And yes, and gardening, jalapenos. I have my limits when it comes to peppers, and I do enjoy a nice mild jalapeno, but when you start getting into the hot ones, um, I I I can have a little, but I'm probably not going to have very much. And the peppers that we've grown historically around here, because you're right, it's for whatever reason the jalapenos seem to grow just about no matter what. The tomatoes and the bell peppers and the rest of it is hit or miss as to whether we can get it to grow or not. But the the jalapenos, I don't know what it is about them, but they'll grow through anything. So 947 and I have tried various efforts at gardening through the years, and I tell you, if I could eat flowers, we would be set because she can grow beautiful arrangements of flowers. She knows how to put different colors of flowers in the same pot. That she's got the little ring of colored flowers around the bottom, and then she's got the taller stuff in the middle, and then she's got the really tall stuff in the back, and the colors all kind of look really good and complementary to one another, but can't eat that. So gardening for us is going to be sneaking into David and Lisa's garden and grabbing whatever we can and hope we don't get shot in the process. So that's really our situation here. We're going to be more dependent on what's canned and what's stored. Because the fresh produce is probably not going to be a good option for us. And you're right. You know your limitations. Know what you're able to do and what you're not able to do, and prepare for it and compensate for it. And I think that's the key. So I feel like this has been a great discussion, and I personally have learned a lot about being prepared in a grid down situation. I hope the rest of you have. Marty is our last check-in tonight, and I think we're going to go ahead and open up the floor for additional comments, questions, discussion, and check-ins. We'll see if we have anyone else who wants to join in on the conversation tonight, and we'll see what comes up. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and do that. We'll open up the floor, and again, spouses and children and guests are absolutely welcome to join the conversation. So if you don't have a tactical unit number, just give me your call sign and we'll log you in that way. Name and location. Net control standing by.
Noon 29 with an additional comment.
Yeah, Marty, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things that, aside from my gardening experiment, which the bugs got the better of my garden, but like you said, the jalapenos survived. if I had to live on things, I guess it would be just that. But on the other side of things, power to keep your freezer going and all those emergency power. Make sure if you do store fuel that A, it's in a safe place, out of the sun, out of the heat. B, that you add stabilizer to that fuel. And I don't want to say Staybill. Staybill is good, but if you use nothing but Staybill, make sure you don't move the can around, because what Staybill does is it puts kind of a layer on the top of the fuel to keep moisture from getting into it. Seafoam works a little bit better in that it mixes in with the fuel and allows it not to absorb water and such. That's something I just recently learned and discovered. But keep your fuel rotated as well. So what I do here, reset. I use the fuel for the lawn, the lawn stuff, the lawn mowers and all that sort of stuff, and just rotate it around. And as you use it up, keep replacing it on the back end, so you try to keep what you have stored as fresh as possible. I think that's about all I have to throw in there. I think it could be useful information for some who may not have thought about that. Then 29 WRCU 796.
Excellent words, Marty. And one thing that I've begun doing here is there's a couple of gas stations in my area that I can drive a little bit further, and I can pay a little bit more, and I can buy ethanol-free gasoline. And I've been doing that for all of my small engine stuff. I've got 2 lawnmowers out there that I can't get to start for nothing, and everything that I've looked at on YouTube, etc., suggests that it's the same problem, and it's the carburetors gummed up from ethanol fuel. I've got a rototiller that I never did get to run very well, and I think that probably it's the same issue. I just need to rebuild the carburetor, clean everything up, and it'll probably be just fine. But the root of all of these problems is the ethanol in the gasoline, and so my answer to that is to seek out and purchase ethanol-free gasoline whenever I can. Costs more. It's inconvenient to go get. But if you want stuff to run, especially if you want it to run well after it's been sitting for a while, like a generator typically is going to be, then I think it's important that you either, as Marty suggested, adequately treat that fuel. And even if you treat the fuel, it still has a shelf life. Even treated ethanol fuel is going to present the problem and break down, and it's still hard on your seals, and it still builds up and creates a wax inside of your carburetor, even treated. So you have to keep that fuel moving through your system in order to keep those buildups from accumulating. And with a generator, we're just not going to do that. It's going to sit for a long period of time before you break it out and use it. I would be willing to bet that many of us listening tonight have a generator that they haven't cranked in a year. And with ethanol, it may not start. You may need to rebuild a carburetor before you're going to get that machine running. So again, be intentional and be proactive and get out there, get your machines running, make sure they're going to start. And if they don't, then, you got a carburetor to rebuild. They're not hard. It's a Saturday afternoon project typically. So, go out, take the carburetor off, get a table with, some kind of a mat that you can sit down at and be able to look at small parts, and a piece of cardboard or something. Have a dish that you can put your little parts into, and get the rebuild kit. You can get the rebuild kit at most of the hardware stores that deal in small engines and lawnmowers and stuff are going to have the rebuild kit for whatever carburetor you have. And if you don't know what carburetor you have, take it with you when you go to get the rebuild kit. $15 or so for the rebuild kit. If you don't know what you're doing, it'll take you 2 hours to disassemble the carburetor, put all the parts in, clean it up, and put it back together. If you do know what you're doing, you can do it in less than an hour. So, not a hard project. And but it's something that we all need to take a look at. So, and for those of us that don't have a generator, that's something to keep in mind. If you're not going to maintain it and you're not going to use it periodically, it may not do you any good when the time comes. If we're already in a bad situation and you need a rebuild kit and you don't have one on hand, you might not be able to get one. So there's your resource unavailable to you because, like David said, we didn't learn how to use it. We didn't learn how to maintain it. So that's another important consideration. Pay attention to the gasoline that you're using. Rotate it. Make sure you've got it treated, and make sure that you're going to have equipment that's going to operate for you when the time comes that you need it. So, good stuff. Let me take another break, see if we have any additional check-ins, any additional comments. Net Control standing by.
Line 810 with an additional comment.
Atlanta 122. I originally had a check-in and out, but this is a very interesting topic. I'd like to make a comment.
I think I may have doubled on somebody. This is 810 with an additional comment.
All right, let me go ahead and acknowledge Atlanta 810 and Atlanta 122 for comments. I'll come back to you here momentarily. But first, let me go to CW14, Steve in Athens. Steve, it's great to hear from you tonight. It's been a little while. Welcome back to the net. Do you have any comments for tonight's conversation?
Yeah, I'm on a portable, so I'm hitting the Jersey machines. I'm not sure how good you can hear. Okay, so here's what I do. I buy the gallons of the True Fuel. It has a 5-year shelf life if unopened, and I've had really good luck with it in my generator and my pressure washer. My pressure washer set for a year and a half, and it cranked on the first pull. I had never done that with regular gas, I can tell you that. But anyway, so I know it's expensive. It's like $20 a gallon, but for something you don't use very often, like the generator, that peace of mind, knowing that fuel is engineered, it's not going to break down, is well worth it. So I keep that in my generator, and I actually run it in my little scooter as well. I've got a little, an old Russian scooter that I ride, and I use it in that. That way I don't have any carburetor issues. So anyway, I just want to throw that in there. It is expensive, but it's worth its weight in gold to me. It's saved me a lot of money in the long run. So anyway, that's about all I got there, so I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you. This is WRC 869, CW14.
All right, Steve. Well, that's a great point, and I don't think I've heard anybody make mention of that tonight. We did talk about True Fuel, I think, in a prior net. But, yeah, True Fuel is, like he says, that's expensive, but the shelf life, if that's something that's important to you, man, you can go through a lot of it with a generator. It wouldn't be hard to burn $100 of worth of fuel in an evening with a generator if you're running a bunch of stuff. But maybe you use the True Fuel to get things going, and then you can transition over to more of a conventional fuel once you know that it's up and running. And then when you get to the place where you're at the end and you're going to shut it down and put it away for a while, go back to the True Fuel so that you can flush out the ethanol and end up with a clean carburetor and a clean float bowl and clean needles and jets, so that it'll start up for you and run the next time. So that's a great idea, and that might be the way to economize with that True Fuel, is start up on it and then finish up on it, and then you can run the other fuel in the middle perhaps. But so he made mention also of an old Russian scooter that he has, so I'm assuming this is something that could be an antique and probably is difficult, if not impossible, to find parts for. So really important to not have to rebuild a carburetor, any more frequently than necessary, because you may be able to take the carburetor apart and clean it up and put it back together, but you're going to have to make your own gaskets probably. You may not be able to find them, so that's something to consider. Although with the advent of the internet and eBay and Amazon, maybe those gaskets are readily available. It's hard to say for sure, but maybe you can just order the rebuild kit for that carburetor, and it's no trouble at all. All right, then, let me go ahead and move on next to comments from Atlanta 810. John, what did you have for us?
I actually had a couple of them. One in addition to yours, a couple of different things. Number one, when I am done with my generator and I'm ready to turn it off, I always shut the fuel line off and let the generator kill itself being out of fuel. I've heard mixed reviews of doing that, but I'll tell you, I have never had a carburetor on a generator go out by doing it. Kind of empties everything as much as possible so that there's not residual or a lot of residual fuel sitting in the hoses and carb. The other thing I've done with my generator specifically is I've taken a hint from these in-home generators, or all-home generators, and I do a generator test every 2 weeks to every 3 weeks, and I do a load test on my generator once a month or every 6 weeks. The load test, quickly, I have a 220 plug sitting in my garage that I can effectively run my entire house with the exception of a few larger appliances, but I put the breaker panel directly to the generator. And every month to 6 weeks, when I'm doing my generator test, firing it up, I go ahead and run through the exercise of plugging up the breaker panel and flipping the home to run off that generator for 30 or 45 minutes under a full load. A couple of reasons for it, but the big one for me is doing it every 6 weeks. I stay in practice, and I know that it works. The other comment I want to make is on the Amazon subscription service, and I'll keep it brief, but one thing I found for me is I was using Costco, other wholesalers, similar to what you were saying, but what I found is just like any other grocery item, I would add it to the list when I was low. Well, that doesn't really do you much good if, you're grid down scenario. What I found with Amazon is I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to add it to a list, and I didn't have to know that I had two, bundles of toilet paper, paper towels, whatever it may be, left. I know what my usage is, and I know how often I should have something show up without me being responsible for saying, okay, we're down to our last 2 packs of toilet paper. Let's get some more at the store. So that'll be it, Justin. I just wanted to add those points out there.
Good stuff. Yeah, and shutting the fuel off at the tank if your machine has that option is a pretty good idea to go ahead and let the vacuum of the engine draw that fuel through the carburetor and out, and that way you don't have the gumming, and you don't have the residue from the fuel screwing things up inside. So it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. I can think of one of my machines out there that has a shutoff under the fuel tank, and I know that machine has a shutoff under the fuel tank because I always give it 3 or 4 pulls before I remember it has a shutoff under the fuel tank. So it's good exercise, I suppose. But usually once I turn the fuel on, it starts up immediately. But until I turn the fuel on, it won't run. It won't run for nothing. Can't figure out why. But the rest of my machines, I don't believe they have a fuel shut off. Like for instance, there's a lawnmower out there. I know it doesn't have any way to shut the fuel off. There's another lawnmower out there that I haven't messed with for quite a while because it's all gummed up and needs a rebuild, and we just haven't needed it, so it's just kind of sat there, and maybe I should get rid of it. Maybe I will. Anybody want a lawnmower? There's no way to really do that other than to just be sure that you don't put more gas in it than you need to and make it run the whole tank out. And that, that's challenging to do. Although when we get to the end of the season, I do that on purpose. I will let the mower run out of gas before I'm done with it, so that I can be sure I don't put too much gas in it. If I have to gas it up 2 or 3 times to finish, I'll do that, so that at the end of the season, when I put it away, I know that I'm putting it away with a dry tank. And but in general practice, I don't do that. So maybe I need to start. It's a good point. So let me go ahead and move on next to Atlanta 122, Maureen, and see what comments she has for the net. Go ahead, Maureen.
Hey, Justin. One of the things that has struck me that has not been stated during any of this conversation so far is actually getting back to basics. One of the things that we learned over the years, we actually had lost our electricity for about 6 months many years ago.
Wow.
And prior to that, we had practiced a little bit more closely to an Amish lifestyle. Let me break. And in doing that, learned a lot about how to live simply, not dependent on the technologies that we have that require generators and electricity, refrigerating, but learning how to do things they did in the old days. How did they preserve meat? How did they preserve foods when they didn't have pressure canners and all of that? How did they cook? They sew. The wild forage. If you don't have any other choices, those are things that we can all learn. And once you learn them, then you have muscle memory kick in once the electricity goes out for whatever period of time. We had electricity go out for a week once at our house, and our well waters run off of it. And let me tell you, you start to learn real quick about what you do and you don't need. Let me go ahead and clear out. This is Atlanta 122, WRMM 689.
All right. Good points, Maureen. Back to the basics, and yes, we can look to our Amish neighbors. Literally, when I grew up, I had Amish neighbors, but we can look to that for ideas as to surviving without electricity. But I'll tell you today, all of the Amish are electrified. They are all using electric refrigerators. They all have solar power on their properties. When I lived in Fort Wayne before I came to work for the railroad, there was an Amish sawmill that ran off of diesel generators throughout the workday. And these big diesel generators, they had several of them on the property, and one of them was specifically for charging the batteries and running power in the office. And this is an office on an Amish farm that is as modern as any business office anywhere, with computers, with servers. They had their own internet presence, the website. They had a room full of servers that all ran off of power inverters and were supported by batteries through the evening, and those batteries were charged by the generators throughout the day. Their break rooms and their refrigerators were run off that same set of power inverters and batteries, and the internet was was like a Wi-Fi kind of an internet, so they didn't actually have a cable coming onto the property, is how they justified having that internet service, a cellular modem of sorts. And yeah, I mean, they found all kinds of ways to have all the modern technology and equipment and tools and that any other saw shop would have, and yet they were completely disconnected from any sort of grid, and but highly functional. And today in Indiana, most of the Amish farms are going to be electrified in some way. Not to the extent that we do. They're still going to be using kerosene and whatnot for gas, for lights and that sort of thing. But they all have phones. They all have internet. They all have, so that culture in that community has changed tremendously from what we think of the Amish being. But nonetheless, they still know how to do things without power, and there's a lot that we could learn from that. So back to the basics, and like David and Lisa had mentioned, just knowing how to do things, in a simpler form, so that like we used to do, like all of us used to do, all of our grandparents and whatnot used to have to get by the old-fashioned ways, and we've lost that in our society. Things like gardening. We don't garden very well at this house, and it sounds like Marty gardens about the same way that we do. So that's something that is a bit of a lost art through the years, and I can tell you for sure that none of my kids have planted a garden, or probably would know where to start. So that's where the society is today. So with that, let's go ahead and open up one more time for any additional check-ins, and if we don't get any, we'll close this thing up. Net control standing by.
This is Atlanta 295, 296, 297,
WRFN 658. Go ahead and check us in and out, please, Justin.
All right, Atlanta 295, Scott. Atlanta 296, Debbie. And who is 297?
That would be my son, Bradley.
All right, Atlanta 297, Bradley. All in Dallas, all in and out. Thank you for those check-ins this evening, Scott. Do we have anyone else that would like to check in tonight?
Chattanooga 104, checking in.
Chattanooga 104, can you come back with your name and general location, please?
My name is Thomas. I'm located up in Chattanooga in the Brainerd area. My call sign is WROB 674.
All right. All right, Thomas. Sorry about that. I'm still trying to catch up with some of these other entries. Okay, Chattanooga 104, Thomas in Brainerd. Do you have any comments for the net tonight? Chattanooga 104, Thomas.
My only additional advice is to just practice what you learned. To take at least one day occasionally, and like you said, forget all the creature comforts that you have, and go back to basics every so often. In the Army, we do that occasionally. We'll take a bad time during the winter, and we'll have just a bad week out in the middle of nowhere, just living with the basics, and then we'll do the same thing in the summer when it's hot in a completely different type of environment. And it's just another refresher, basically, of going back to your basics. But that is it. WROB 674, clear.
Good stuff, Thomas. And yes, and that is something that we did kind of go over a little bit. I mean, it's great that you've got a generator if you've got one, but then do you know if it'll run all the things you expect it to run? And if you can periodically put a load on it, and put an actual load on it, that's the real deal. If you can get it to, run the things that you expect it to run in an emergency, then you know that you've got something that'll work. And then also, yeah, like you say, practice that. Periodically break it out, hook it up, and kill the main breaker and see if it'll run the things that you need it to run still. Sometimes, especially something like a generator, they'll fail in time. If it's an inverter style generator, you could have capacitors go bad and have no way of knowing it until the day you try to use it. So we don't do ourselves a service by having stuff that we don't know how to use. And by having equipment that is untested and unproven and not knowing that you can count on it when the time comes that you need to count on it, can actually put you in a worse position than not having it. If you don't have a generator and you know that you don't have it, then you need to plan and figure out how you're going to get by for whatever period of time on the resources that you do have. So it's not about making sure you have all of the things that you could ever possibly want so that you can be comfortable in a grid down situation. It all boils down to a lot to what Atlanta 180 Mike said. The most important thing is to survive. We don't have to be comfortable, but we do need to survive. And the best way to make sure that we survive is to make sure that we have some very basic things to see to that. And that's simple food and and clean water. And another important thing to make sure that we survive is to remain uninjured throughout whatever time we are trying to get through. So with that in mind, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up at this point. So I'd like to thank everyone who has participated in tonight's net. And a quick little announcement that I want to make. The next several weeks are going to be a big if for me as to whether I will be here or not. I have some things going on in the family, and so my schedule is very likely to be changed for me without much notice. So understand that next week's net, if I can find a guest net controller to sit in for me, then I'm going to plan to do that whether I'm here or not. And I'm probably going to make that plan for the next 2 to 3 nets because I don't know what my schedule is going to be. So with that in mind, I just want to say that I appreciate all of you for participating through this series of nets that we've recently had. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope that I can come up with something as engaging and fun to talk about as we've had here recently. So just bear with me here for a couple of weeks until we get this current life crises past, and once we do, we'll get right back into the swing of things. We're going to have a ton of fun. Meanwhile, I hope that you'll tune in for the nets. And if for some reason I can't find a guest net controller and no one comes on, then I would invite all of you to just come on and participate in a rag chew just to discuss whatever you care to. Enjoy the radio, enjoy one another, and be the family. Continue to be the family that we have been, and that's powerful stuff. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank every one of you for your participation at any level that you do. As promised, I'm going to go through all of our check-ins tonight. I think it's a big deal to hear your name over the air. So with that in mind, I'm going to read everyone who has checked in. I'm going to read your name and your check-in status one more time. We're going to go through it fairly quickly, so listen fast. Atlanta 285, CV Smith in Murrayville, in and out tonight. Atlanta 286, Lynn in Murrayville, also in and out. Atlanta 287, in and out tonight. Thank you to the Smith family. Atlanta 253, Donald in Blairsville had comments for us this evening. It was great to hear from you. Atlanta 722, Lisa in Rockmart. Thanks so much for the 10 Commandments, Lisa. That was very cool. Atlanta 912, Alfonso in Marietta. Alfonso, great to hear from you. Thank you for your check-in tonight, in and out. And looking forward to the next episode of Two Alphas Talk on YouTube. Be sure and check that out, folks. It's worth it. Atlanta 721, David in Rockmart. Thanks for your comments tonight. Back to the basics and doing it like we used to do. That's you know, if you can practice what David said, then you don't care about the grid being up or down. You're capable of getting by, and as Maureen pointed out, the way the Amish used to do, you know, if you're capable of those things, the grid isn't that important. So good stuff. Atlanta 122 Marine checked in and out, but she had comments later, so that was good. We have Atlanta 403, Bobby in White County was in and out tonight. Atlanta 750, Jeff in Waleska, still adjusting antennas, I'm sure, at 9:30 at night. Oh, it's not 9:30, it's 9:11. Jeff, I hope you get that all worked out. I look forward to hearing a good, clean signal from you very soon. Atlanta 180, Mike in Cherry Log, just getting by. Thank you, Mike, for your comments. Atlanta 699, Mike in Sugar Hill. I think Mike was in and out with us tonight. Mike, did I skip you? Are you still hanging out there waiting for your comments? Atlanta 699, Mike. All right, we're going to go ahead and show Mike as in and out. Thank you for your check-in tonight, Mike. Atlanta 138, Robert in Auburn at band practice, in and out with us tonight. Atlanta 671, John in Ball Ground. Appreciated your comments tonight, John. And listening is an important thing too. I've learned a lot, and I know that many others probably have too. Atlanta 657, Sam in Canton was in and out tonight. Thank you, Sam, for your check-in. Atlanta 810, John in Dawsonville. John, thanks for your comments. Atlanta 780, Houston in Powder Springs. Houston, it was great to hear from you tonight. Atlanta 402, Todd incoming, in and out. Thank you, Todd, for your check-in tonight. Atlanta 76, David in Buford was also in and out. Thank you, David, for checking in tonight. Hope that your work shift goes well. Atlanta 749, Craig in Douglasville was in with us tonight. Thank you for your comments tonight. Atlanta 920 and 921, Kyle and Ashley, both incoming. We're in and out tonight. Thank you, Kyle and Ashley. Glad that you were able to listen in. Chattanooga 100, Bob in Ringgold, and Chattanooga 101, Tammy. Tammy was in and out, but Bob had some comments for us. Thank you for that, Bob. Atlanta 532, Tom in Flowery Branch was in and out. Atlanta 312, Stacy in Emerson was in and out. McDonough 22, Tim in Stockbridge had some comments for us tonight. That was very enjoyable, Tim. Thank you. We have Atlanta 948, Gary in Woodstock in and out. Let me break. It's a good thing I have that cough switch. Otherwise, it's a good thing I have that cough switch. Atlanta 948 is the one I just left off on. That brings me to Atlanta 252, Shad in. I have him in Atlanta, but I think that might be wrong. In any case, Shad is in and out tonight. I have 167, Neil in Sugar Hill, also in and out tonight. I've got 503, Paul in Jefferson, make several attempts to get in here. Paul, thanks for your tenacity and sticking with it. We finally got you in here from Jefferson. Thanks for that check-in, in and out. Atlanta 417, William in Auburn was in and out tonight. We had McDonough 32, Bruce in Stockbridge. Thanks for your, McDonough 39. 39, Bruce in Stockbridge. Thanks for your comments tonight, Bruce. We had Atlanta 923, Sophie incoming. Thank you so much for your check-in tonight, Sophie. It was great to hear from you. We had 947, Julie in Woodstock. Haven't heard Julie on the air in a while. It was great to hear that check-in tonight. We have WRNN790, John in Griffin, checked in with us tonight. And we had WRNQ863, Little John in Dawsonville, check in tonight. It was great to hear from both of you, in and out. We had Noonan29, Marty in Tyrone, with comments tonight. We had CW14, Steve in Athens, with comments tonight. It was great to hear from you, Steve, and hope all is well over there. 295, 296, 297, Scott, Debbie, and Bradley, in and out tonight. And we have Chattanooga 104. Thomas and Brainerd was in with us this evening. That's the end of my list. That was 44 check-ins, including myself. So at this time, we're going to turn the repeaters back to normal use. Anyone who checked in should check out. This will conclude the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Thank you for allowing me to serve as your net control this evening. Good night, everyone. My name is Justin. This is Atlanta 946, WQIR 514. And I'm clear.
This is Atlanta 810, WRNQ863. I'll be clear for the night. Justin, you, your family are in our thoughts and prayers. Hope everything goes well. Keep us updated. Clear.